Welcome to Chapter 10.6.2, in which we are going to see how to make the weather forecast work for both the next 4 days and the current day. We will also begin to see how to make the buttons in the areas at the bottom work. Let's go with it! Now let's start to see how to make this prediction. It really is 4 days, not 5 as I have put here. Let's see how to make these icons change based on the weather forecast. Let's start with something easier, which will be to put below the days to which this prediction corresponds within the current month. There will be 4 numerical values. I will also take the opportunity to remove one of these icons and leave only the 4 that we are going to use. As you can see, I have deleted one of the icons and I have now spaced them again. Likewise, we have to change the background so that it says 4 days here, but we will do it later. Well, let's see then how to obtain the 4 days of the month to put them down here. We go to our script, and we are going to see that we have some variables here that we obtain in each iteration, which are called weather day, weather month, and weather year. Let's see it on the device weather. Have day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. We are going to export those days. The first thing we will do is go to Export. We click on More and Filter by Day. We see that we have them perfect here, the 4 of the device weather, right? They're down here. We will start numbering them from 314. We come up, we click here, and we write 314 so that the numbering continues and does not recycle blank spaces that remain in the middle. Okay, so day 1 will be 315, 316, 317, and 318. Let's remember that it is 315 on the first day. Okay, we save, we apply the changes, and we go back to our icons. We are then going to insert a new field of type number, and we will tell it that we want the mask 00 in case there are leading zeros. We select what will come from Adquio Pro. And we had said that the address was 315. Very good. We will put 315 here and Adquio Pro. Let's see by default what size they are. Above, we see that it is very wide. Even if it is very wide, it doesn't matter because we have enough space. Still, let's adjust it to the size of the icon. We are going to set a width of 128. This way, it will be much easier for us to center exactly. We are going to make it a little bigger to make good use of the available space. The height of the font is 65 times the width of the box. Let's make it a little bigger, 0.75. It's already a little bigger, but it still fits bigger. Let's put it at 85. I think it's perfect for it to look good on the screen. So we now have day 14. Let's copy it to paste it here, here, and here, with exactly the same characteristics, except the memory location from which it should take the value. We select it. Copy and paste. Paste 1. Paste 2. Paste 3. We place them. The magnets help us to keep them perfectly centered. If this one had position 315, this one will have 316, 317, and 318. Perfect. So, day 13, that is 14, 15, 16, and 17. All right, now comes the icons part. We are going to make these icons changeable within the tools that we have in this design application. We know that we don't have any option for an image to change based on an index or a variable. Since we cannot do that, we are going to take advantage of the property that images have to make them, depending on a variable, visible or not visible. If we want, or if we associate the number 3 to this icon, for example, we are going to tell it that it will be visible when this variable is equal to 3. In any other case, it will not be visible. In this way, what we will do is stack the 9 icons that we have for the possible weather predictions within each day and assign them their variable and that condition that you are going to see if the index of the icon is your number. We obtained this from the icon script. From the weather prediction script, and we had some variables in weather where we have the icons for each day. If we look at these variables, we see that they have values 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1. These are the indices of the icons. Okay, let's see what they correspond to and how to use them. First of all, we are going to export all these icon variables so we can use them on our screen. Let's do the same thing we did before. Export, we add and select here, icon. Since they are exactly what we need, we select them all. We add them and, as always, they are at the end. The last value managed is 318, so we are going to tell it to number them automatically starting at 318. There, we have them all numbered. We save and apply the changes. The next thing we are going to see is that table of icons and their corresponding values. Here we have them. As you can see, we have up to 9 icons for different weather conditions. Clear sky, few clouds, scattered clouds, broken clouds, light rain, rain, storm, snow, and fog. As I told you before, we are going to associate each icon with a number. These are the numbers that I receive is generating. We are going to associate that this icon will only be seen when the variable contains a 1, this icon when it contains a 2, and so on up to 9. I changed the set of icons because I found others in the same font that I liked better. The previous ones were all too similar and didn't stand out when the weather conditions changed. I have done the same work that we saw before with these new icons, which for me are more attractive. We continue. Let's start with this cloud icon. We know it is the number 4, so we tell it that it will be visible when the value is equal to 4. Let's take the courage of our Adquio Pro. Let's see what variable we take. We have the icons here, and since we have 5 icons for each day, we are going to take the prediction for the following days at approximately half a day. It will be icon 013 for the first day, 023 for the second, and so on. So we're going to look at our export, and we're going to see what position the 013 icon is exported to. So icon 013 is exported at position 321. Okay, we return to our Adquio, and we are going to tell it that it will be position 321 that will decide whether this icon is visible or not. Let's run it. and it looks like the icon is still visible. Therefore, it will be that this day contains position 4. Let's see it, or we have done something wrong. Then we filter by icon, and it contains position 4. It is a coincidence that we have chosen the icon well, but it actually contains position 4. We are going to do the same with the rest of the icons, up to 9, placing them on top of each other. We are going to do one so you can see how it is done, and then I will do the rest now so that we don't have to spend so much time watching exactly the same process. Okay, so let's take this cloud that we already have here. We select, we copy, we paste, and we already have two, one on top of the other. So based on our list of icons, we're going to select the sun and tell it is position 1. We select the sun and tell it that instead of position 4, it is 1. The memory position is the same. When trying this, right now I only have two icons, one on top of the other, and if I run it now, it has worked for me. But you have to be careful if it doesn't work for you. If you see that the icons are not hidden, because in many cases it is necessary that you modify the value of the variable for it to start working. I'm going to put 1 on it, and as you see, when you come back, it already has the icon of the sun, which is the one with condition 1. I have temporarily changed the variable below to see the value of the icon index, but I will leave it as it was so that it returns to its 14th. Okay, so just that. Keep in mind that when you do this thing of hiding and unhiding icons, in many cases, it is important that you change the value of the variable or that the value of the variable changes for it to start working. If the value of the variable does not change, that condition will never be executed. I already have all the icons stacked here, all 9 icons. Let's do a check now to see if all of them are working. So to do this, we're going to go to the variable that all these icons are associated with and start changing. It should be sunny. The icon has changed to sun. A little cloudy. It has changed. Cloudy. Perfect. Very cloudy. Very good. A little rain. Lots of rain. Storm. Lightning. A snowflake, that is, snow, which would be the last. Fog. So you see that, by changing the index of the icon changes visually on the screen. I'm going to do the same with the next 4 days, which are 9 icons for each one, and then I'll show you how it looks. But the work is exactly the same. Simply stack the icons and select the variable to which they are associated and the condition for them to be visible, which is that they contain a value equal to the one corresponding to the icon we want to show. I'm going to tell you a trick that I use when I have to do a lot of repetitive things. In this case, you know that each of these 3 blocks is made up of 9 icons, each one, okay? There are more icons below. It works because only one will be visible at a time, since each one has a condition, and the condition will be met only in one of each block. Well, in this case, I have not done this yet. How have I made the process of making this and this one as quick as possible? The first option is to copy and paste and modify them all one by one. But what happens? That the difference between the icons of this position, this one and this one, is only the direction Modbus to which they are connected. Instead, the icon is the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the images are exactly the same. Therefore, a good idea is to create a new panel. I created this one, in which I have all the icons, and it is much easier for me to change the memory positions. In this case, the last one is 336 in all of them. However, the icon and the condition are the same. Therefore, I already have this panel with the icons that I am going to put in the fourth position. What I am going to tell you is simply Save Current Panel, and this is the panel P1. I select and save. Confirm, and now we return to the panel we were working on. What we are going to do is delete this icon that we no longer need. And we are going to load the panel one about this with Load Panel. We select the panel one, and let's see how it brings me all the icons on top of the current ones. So the only thing I need to do is position them correctly, which is very easy, as you can see, since they all already have their correct values. Be careful not to drag any icons other than the ones here, as in this case, we could drag this one, but it is not the one we have. It is this one. So, with the magnets that this has, it is very easy to locate them and have them stay correctly in their position. We execute and we already have the weather predictions for La Coruña for the next few days. Tomorrow looks like it's going to be very cloudy. It looks like the next day is going to be sunny, very cloudy, and very cloudy with rain. That's our prediction. So, we already have the time, the date, the days of the weather predictions for the next 4 days, and also the prediction, so that it is very visual to know what the weather is going to be like in the next few days. We are now missing the weather forecast for today, and this requires a new API call that we will see below. I have already done the same with the icon for today's prediction, but I just told you that this prediction does not come to us in the predictions for the next 4 days. Therefore, we have to make a new API call for the current day. Let's see how this has been done. First, we have created a new variable on the device weather, and this new variable is at the end, and it is called cur.icon, the icon for the current day. And we have added in the script of refresh forecast a small addition, which is another different call to the API. Of course, this will also work for you. Script which I am going to leave you linked in the comments, and we only obtain a value that we save, as you see, in the variable that we just commented on in weather, cur.icon. We do it both at initialization, which would be this part, and at the bottom also in each iteration of the recurrence, every hour. Remember that we had configured the time refresh every hour and the time and date refresh every minute. This was exported in the last position as we have always added. Here it is at position 339, and all the icons that are stacked there are connected to position 339, exactly the same as we had seen in the previous case with the prediction icons. So we now have the weather forecast fully working, the forecast for today, the current time, and the current date. And now we must start working with the buttons at the bottom. The way they are going to work is that when you click on one of the areas, in this case, for example, reception and for example, fan, what will happen is that once we have 2 elements pressed, one from the zone and another from what we want to manage, a new window will open to manage in that case. For example, the fan in the zone of reception, the ventilation speed of the reception area. If we want, for example, the hallways, we want to regulate their temperature. Well, we'll stick our finger in corridors and in temp. Let's see how to do all this. The first thing I must tell you is that all these buttons that we have at the top, both those of the areas and those of the elements that we want to manage, each of them will work with a single variable. That is, that the buttons, they are going to feed a variable, and each of them are going to save a value in that variable. That means that for the zones, we are going to have a variable. That, for example, we are going to have for button 1, the value 1. Corridors, button 2. Developers, button 3. Engineers, button 4. R&D, button 5. Training, button 6, for example. And if we had more, because we have a little arrow there that there may be more areas, so on and so forth. In the same way, you would go through the fan control buttons, temperature control, lighting level control, RGB lighting control, and white light tone control. Exactly the same way, in a single variable, and each of them will feed it with a different value number. In this way, the controller receives, it will know which button press changed, because it will have an event where the button pressed will change, and it will know that if we have 2 buttons pressed, it means we want to open a new window. So, let's see how to do all this. We return, as you see, again to our Adquio Pro, and we are going to create 2 new variables to collect the button presses of the areas and the button presses of the actions that we have at the bottom of the screen. Let's then create these variables inside the device memory, because they are going to be variables that do not belong to any device, but are variables for our own internal use. And we are going to create it. The first will be zone. Will be a 16-bit integer, will simply contain values from 1 to 6, approximately, read and write, and will be persistent. Let's also give it the name zone. Okay, and the following will be the variable action. And it will also be a 16-bit integer and persistent. Remember that the persistent option is so that this variable maintains its value even if the controller Adquio lose power. When it boots, it will still have the value it had at the time the power was lost. Okay, so here we have it zone and action. We save it, apply the changes, and export them as usual. You already know how it works, so I'm not going to explain it to you again. As you can see, we have had an error on the device here. This happens because, as this device is currently in use, when adding variables to the device, for a very small moment, the device becomes unavailable because, let's say, we are changing it while saving it. As there are scripts running that are writing massively to this device, this error occurs temporarily, but it is only for maybe half a second. Okay, it is nothing worrying. I have already exported these 2 new variables, and they are in positions 340 and 341. So how we are going to make our buttons work? We will see this and several other very interesting things in the next chapter. Until then,